In 1992, बीजेपी लीडर लाल कृष्ण आडवाणी रथ यात्रा रामलला हम आएंगे मंदिर वहीं बनाएंगे We will come Ayodhya to rebuild temple. With these sky-piercing slogans, the temple wave of Lord Sri Ram was spreading on all over India. But amidst these deafening slogans, some sobs were dying in the state of Rajasthan adjoining Uttar Pradesh. Or we can say that some innocent scream was being buried in the grave of filthy laughter. These sobs arose from near the famous Dargah of Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti in Ajmer. Yes, the same Chishti who took credit for the victory of Muhammad Ghori. He said, "We caught Pithora, means Prithviraj Chauhan, alive and handed him over to the army of Islam." Hearing this anecdote, the people who kept the basket of ziyarat at the dargah should be compelled to think how one by 100 Hindu girls of class 10th and 12th were made victims of rape. All those girls were also not from poor families, they belonged from reputed families. This is not a fantasy story, but a stigma saga of Ajmer Dargah in Rajasthan whose stains are not getting erased even after 3 decades. Before starting this story, we give a fictional name of Rani, who was a Hindu girl. She studied in the famous Sophia Secondary School in Ajmer, who probably had no idea that if someone put a matchstick in her path that she had already taken with the ambition of a gas cylinder connection, then how many Ranis, Lados, or Nirbhayas like her would get scorched. Rani was the girl whose only wish was to get a gas cylinder connection only. Because in the 90s, getting a domestic cylinder connection was like a big success. This was the time when people used to come with the recommendation of ministers, MPs to get the gas connection number. In the hope of reaching higher levels, the girl who was studying in class 12, through her friend she met Sarwar Chishti, district president of Congress Youth Wing, and Naseem Chishti, deputy district president. Important documents were exchanged and Rani felt that her destination was near. The gas connection will present an example of her accessibility. But she probably did not know that this one example of her would make her stand at the crossroads, which will prove to be such a matchstick in the cylinder in which hundreds of innocent girls of Sophia and Savitri school will get scorched. One day, while returning from school, Rani was given lift by Nafis and Farooq in their Maruti van. They told her that they are being taken to meet a famous leader and also she has to complete the formalities of photos etc. for the form on gas connection. The Rani believed on it. Nafis and Farooq took her to a farmhouse where she was get raped and threatened to kill her. Some nude pictures of the Rani were taken and she was intimidated that if she opened her mouth, her photo would be printed in the newspaper. Now a new game started from here, and the Rani was asked to call her friends also to that farmhouse. The scared Rani kept bringing her friends at the behest of the Chishti's brother, and this loathsome game continued. The rapist also took photographs of the rape because shame and blackmailing were the most reliable guarantees of keeping these victims silent. Actually, there is a book named Dirty Picture which is written by Anuradha Marwa. Anuradha has mentioned a dirty and loathsome game of khadims of Ajmer famous Dargah in her book. The theme of her book is the story of Ajmer rape case. That is from 1990 to 1992. This disgusting game of dirty pictures continue. The Khadim Chishtis of the Dargah kept playing with innocent girls' honor. The responsible were also aware with that. A dirty game is being played in Ajmer. They knew that the accused were a gang of influential, politically blessed Farooq, Anwar, and Nupur Chishti and their friends. Despite that, everyone was silent on the helplessness of the daughter of Ajmer. It became their time pass to entrap and gang rape of those school girls with threatening and blackmailing for couple of months. The Hindu girls hunting was going on with the help of that money which was offered by secular Dargah devotee Hindus. The family of Farooq Chishti, Nupur Chishti and Anwar Chishtis were associated with the khadims caretaker of the famous Dargah of Ajmer. It is said that more than 100 girls of Sophia and Savitri school were blackmailed and raped in this manner, second after one, third after second. All the girls were minors and innocent studying in 10th and 12th only. The surprising thing is that among the raped girls were also the daughters of IAS, IPS. It means these girls were not from any poor, middle class, or poor helpless homes, but girls coming from well known reputed families of Ajmer. At that time, there was no social media that any one girl would convey her words to anyone. Nude photos were taken, and when this reel went to the studio to be watched, the studio guy also took out the extra copy. Because the studio also belonged to Chishti's friend only and Muslim community. And he also started exploiting those innocent girls and getting them to do with their friends too. Means number of blackmailers increased from 2 to 3 and at the end there were a total of 18 blackmailers. The rapist had now multiplied, in which along with the owner of the lab there was also a technician developing photos from negative. The blackmailers used to rape themselves as well as oblige others close to them because all the girls were Hindu only. Whoever felt like it called a girl from school and fulfilled the lust of themselves and their friends also. Now the limit has crossed, so the girls started living in the atmosphere of fear. They were suffocating from such life. Day by day, the rapists were increasing. Finally, getting fed up, one girl after another started committing suicide. When several girls of the same school committed suicide, the matter started coming under doubt. It is said that this matter would have reached hundreds to thousands if a journalist had not raised his voice. If he had not got one in, we don't know where this fire would have reached. The name of that journalist was Santosh Gupta. That time he used to work in the daily Navjyoti newspaper. Santosh had put this high profile sex scandal in the public domain with the help of a person. In fact, a real developer named Purushottam presented photos of the harassed and raped girls to a man named Devendra Jain by calling those girls as real goods. Jain sent those pictures to the newspaper. What was then? On 21st April 1992, Santosh Gupta wrote the first report on the Ajmer sex scandal, but the news did not show much effect. A few days later, on 15th May 1992, the second report was published. This time, there were few nude pictures of rape victim, which would put any civilized society to shame, in which her face was slightly blurred. In this picture, there was a crying girl sitting next to ruthless bestial were smiling crookedly. The news shocked the people of Ajmer who felt the pain of that schoolgirl. Soon the city came on the road, and due to that protest, Ajmer was kept closed on 18th May 1992. It is said that at that time there were more than 350 magazines in Ajmer And instead of supporting the victims of this sex scandal, many local media personnel used to blackmail their families. On the contrary, leave the accused. In the whole matter, there has hardly been any profession of the society which has unanimously raised voice for these victims. Eventually, only Dainik Navjyoti newspaper brought this news in the light. As a result, in September 1992, the first charge sheet of 250 pages was filled, in which there were 128 names of eyewitnesses and 63 evidences. The District Session Court commenced the hearing on 28 September. The police recognized the face of 30 girls through photos and videos. They went and talked to them and asked to file a case. But many families refused in the name of slander in the society. After all, only 12 girls agreed to file the case, but the influence of the Dargah was so much that after receiving threats, 10 of these girls withdrew their name. Only the remaining 2 girls took this case forward. When these girls recognized 16 men, then 11 people are arrested by the police. These include Farooq Chishti, Moinullah alias Khotan Allahabadi, Parvez Ansari, Mahesh Ludhani, Syed Anwar Chishti, Shamshu Bishti alias Maradona and Zahur Chishti. But the layers of the case were opened and the never-ending series of hearings in the court also started. As complex as the legal process was, it was also painful for the victim girls, who had to come to the court to testify at every hearing. The matter, which started from September, reached till December. But on 6 December 1992, Ram devotees demolished the Babri structure in Uttar Pradesh. The debate broke out across the country and communalism started spreading. So, this matter started being hidden. But one of the 12 accused, Purushottam, who showed photo to Mr. Jain, committed suicide in 1994. After that, in 1994, Naseem alias Tarjan was also arrested. Later, Nupur Chishti, Iqbal Bhati, Salim Chishti, Sohail Ghani, Syed Jamir Hussain were arrested. 8 suspects were sentenced to life imprisonment by the District Session Court in 1998. But in 2001, the Rajasthan High Court had released 4 of them. After this, in 2003, the Supreme Court reduced the sentence of the rest of the accused to 10 years. That is, a division bench of Rajasthan High Court Judge Muhammad Rafiq acquitted Farooq Chishti on the basis of a certificate of insanity. Now the Rajasthan government reached the Supreme Court against the 10-year sentence. So Supreme Court Justice N. Santosh Hegde and Justice B.P. Singh bench felt that 10 years imprisonment was enough for so many rapes. The relatives of khadim of the Dargah were absconding or were released on bail. One of the accused, Salim Nafis Chishti, was also caught after 19 years in 2012, but he also got bail. Now there is no news about him. Since then there is no news about this case, that what happened to the rapist, where is Salim, Farooq's mental condition is fine or not, no one needed to know. And anyway, we Hindus are secular people. So who and why should remember the 25-30-year-old news? It is just a news. None of the Chishtis, the culprits of the Ajmer rape case, are in jail now. The rest you can keep adding. If the punishment for one rape is 7 years, then what should be the punishment for 100 rapes? Can a Hindi film be made on this? Will any producer, any director and other people who go to Khwaja Dargah to seek vows can ask the question to Khwaja at Khwaja's tomb that where were they when hundreds of girls were being plundered by their own descendants? Whose offering was it? And whose vow was being fulfilled? When Santosh Gupta, who brought the stigma of this case in front of everyone, narrates the pain and suffering of the daughters of Ajmer, then he says, Draupadi's rip-off happened a lot. Now wake up Madhava, wake up now Madhava.